Remember that trust and faith are mentalities that you can practice. We often practice self-doubt. Hi dancers, welcome back to the Confident Dancer YouTube channel or podcast if you're listening there. I know I haven't uploaded in a few weeks, but I'm really excited to get back into that. And I hope you also, if you're watching on YouTube, you enjoy my new little filming setup. I'm still kind of figuring it out, but I think it's cute. Comment below letting me know what you think. Today, I'm really excited to share this topic with you because it's one I really needed to hear as a younger dancer. The topic is how to believe in yourself, even when it's hard. And I think for a lot of us, it feels hard. Why? Because we experience things that feel like failure. We haven't yet seen the success we want, or we don't feel like we're getting that affirmation or validation from parts or teachers to suggest that we can really be sure that, yeah, we're going to become a professional dancer, or we're going to get that promotion, or whatever it is that you want to do. If you don't feel like you have a lot of evidence to support your belief, then it's totally fair that you would experience doubt. Like, how do I believe in myself? Can I really do this? Am I good enough? So I want to talk about how to bridge that gap from a mental perspective in order to help you have a healthy level of trust and belief and confidence in what you're capable of. I would say those are synonyms for belief in yourself. So I'm going to talk about how to actually do that even when you've experienced failures, setbacks, you feel like, oh, I'm not the best dancer in my class, or so many others are better than me, so on and so forth. So this video is for you if you've experienced any of those doubts, so that you can start to feel more confident and hopeful in your journey. My first piece of advice for you is to let go of all the evidence you are holding against yourself. This might feel challenging, but my friends, it is a choice, and if you work at it, you can get there. What I mean by letting go of what you're holding against yourself is, for example, an image in your head from your childhood of where you feel you should be in life by now. Like, a lot of us have a picture from a young age of what we would be doing by a certain age, how we would be dancing, how we would be living, what we would look like, how we would feel about ourselves. And the thing is, we all have this image in our head of where we want to be by a certain time, but a lot of us don't end up experiencing the fulfillment of that picture in our head exactly or at that exact time. And so what can happen is we can feel like, oh, that's where I should be right now. I'm not yet, so I'm less than, or I failed. Instead of just acknowledging, like, okay, you were younger, you had a vision, but that doesn't mean every vision is exactly your best path. Or even if it is, maybe your assessment of how long it should take you to get there just wasn't fair to yourself. No matter how you think about where your life is compared to this image in your head, if this is causing you to feel shame, judgment, like a failure, like you're just fighting an uphill battle, my friend, that standard you created for yourself when you were younger is just not fair to hold against yourself. Remember, this was an idea that you had a long time ago. Our ideas from the past are formed by whatever we thought was reasonable at the time. Our visions are allowed to update as we get more information. That doesn't mean you're accepting defeat. It means that you're letting yourself be where you're at right now, so you can at least start and say, okay, this is day 1. Where am I going day 2 or day 100? What's the next vision? And just remember that it's great to have an aspiration of where you want to go, but it's the most normal thing in the world to experience results that are slightly different or very different from where you thought you would be. That's life. That's being a human. Okay, we've all experienced it. It doesn't mean your dreams aren't possible. It just means sometimes we don't end up living out that exact idea in our head. And sometimes that's actually good, even if it doesn't feel good. Okay, so my friend, you are allowed to update that picture in your head of where you feel you should be by now if it's actually holding you back. with self-doubt, self-judgment, insecurities. If it's not working for you, let it go. Update the picture, okay? The second thing is if you're holding recent failures or rejections against yourself as evidence for why you can't believe in yourself, I want to validate that, of course, sometimes when we experience what we would call quote unquote failure, even though I don't like that word, I like to remind us that we just missed a mark, whether it's a mark we set for ourselves or a mark someone else set for ourselves. That's human. We set ideals all the time and don't make them. Ideals give us something to reach towards. It doesn't mean we're going to meet them 100% of the time. So if you're holding that against yourself, you know what? Join the club that you've experienced it, but just remember that you can look at that quote unquote failure more kindly in a way that helps you to be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to be proud of myself that I can learn from that. What can I learn from it? How can I use that failure, so to speak, to make me better going forward? Even if it's the way it made you better is helping you to grow in acceptance of your imperfection. That's valid, okay? We don't always have to make it technical, like, oh, I experienced this failure, so it made me learn to turn out my legs more. You know, like sometimes the growth and the learning is more about, you know, your personal growth, and that's beautiful as well. So just remember that even failures or rejections, if you're continuing to hold that in your mind as evidence why you can't believe in yourself, then you're allowed to change your relationship with those past events. You can reframe them to be learning opportunities. You can reframe them to be, you know, maybe you can trust that they are blessings in disguise in a way. However you need to think about it in order to not hold it against yourself, you're allowed to do that. The third thing to let go if you're holding this against yourself is particular people's opinions of you. Remember, dance is an art form. What is art? It is subjective. I mean, that's not what art is. It is a quality of art. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If you've never heard that quote, think on that one for a little bit. Remember that the fun of art, and dance is obviously an art form, is that it's subjective. One person might love a performance, they might love a piece of music or choreography or a particular dancer's interpretation of the role. Another person might be like, it was meh. Another person might be like, I hated it. We are all allowed to have our own free will, which means we're all allowed to have our own opinions. But the trouble is sometimes we put certain people's opinions on a pedestal because they're the main voice in our dance journey right now. Whether it's a certain teacher, a director, a choreographer you've worked with, people do give feedback that really cuts deep, whether they mean it to be that way or not. And so I really empathize with how much that can stick emotionally and be like, oh, because this teacher ignored me or told me at worst, like, I'm not going anywhere and I should consider another path. We think, oh, they represent a lot of people's opinions or they're right. But my friend, just because one person thinks that way doesn't mean there's not someone else who wouldn't appreciate you, believe in you, invest in you, okay? And also, even if you haven't found that person yet, you can be that person, all right? One person's opinion or several people's opinion, just because they're there doesn't mean it's the only way to see yourself. You don't have to stay in agreement with someone's opinion of you if it is destructive. The next important step in starting to believe in yourself is actually clarify what you want. Not only big picture, which I think a lot of us are clear on, like I want to become a professional dancer, or I want to dance for a bigger company, or I want to get a promotion, or if you're a recreational dancer, I want to perform on stage, or whatever your big picture goal is. Clarify that if you haven't already, but then clarify the next little picture goal, the next stepping stone that you want to hit on your journey to that bigger goal. And specifically, this is the part a lot of people don't do, identify what action steps you can take to help yourself get there. A lot of times we have such a vague idea in our heads of what success is. We're like, oh, I want to make it. I want to be a good dancer. I want to be successful. But it's like, what does that actually mean? And even if we have thought, what does it mean? The next thing to question is, Where did you get that idea? Is it because someone else told you it's cool, or do you really want that for yourself? Make sure that your vision in your head of where you want to go, that it's not only specific, but that it's personally meaningful to you. And then if that's a big picture idea in your head, break it down into a smaller next step. Like, okay, if I want to, let's say you're a pre-professional dancer and you want to get into a professional company, how would I want to be dancing in 2 years by the time it's time to start auditioning for companies? What would I want to look like for me? Don't picture anyone else, picture yourself and how you want your technique to look, how you want your artistry to look. And once you cultivate a specific vision of what's next for you, you can then clarify what action steps you could be taking consistently, or, sometimes it's just one-time action steps. What actions can you be taking to help yourself get to that goal? When we have a clear destination and we have an idea of the path we could stay committed to getting there, we will stay much more focused and dialed in on our action and not so focused on our outcomes. When we're unclear on the outcomes and the path, the action steps we could be taking to get there, we can then just be like asking these general questions in our heads like, am I good enough? Am I gonna make it? And we're thinking way too big picture and spinning out into all these what ifs that we can't answer right now, creating a lot of self-doubt, rather than dialing in on what is my action plan for now to get to my next best step. When you're so dialed in on here's what I'm doing now, you're focused in on the action. You're gonna be creating momentum. That feels amazing. Then you're gonna be noticing your wins, like, hey, I'm not perfect yet, because who is, but I've created this change this month. Film yourself if you need to, and actually force yourself to look at what are the positive changes I see. Force yourself to celebrate them, even if you don't feel like you deserve it. Do it, okay? As you practice it, it will get easier. Just because these things I'm telling you are unfamiliar or perhaps even uncomfortable doesn't mean they don't work, or they're not worth your time, or you can't eventually become comfortable with them. It's like dancing. I mean, trying to do the splits for the first time, is that not insanely uncomfortable? And then it's uncomfortable for a long time until you get the splits. But we're not like, oh, I just, it's uncomfortable, I can't do it. I mean, some people are, but then they don't practice the fortitude and resilience to actually get the split. So just remember, with any of the changes I'm suggesting, it's okay if it's uncomfortable and unfamiliar right now. It's a practice. All these mental things are a practice, and you get more familiar with them and better at them and more comfortable with them over time. Speaking of practices, step 3 is to remember that trust and faith are mentalities that you can practice. We often practice self-doubt. We practice it by focusing on all the evidence that supports our doubts. Like, oh, I failed that one time. That teacher doesn't pay attention to me. Whatever it is. But guess what? You can start turning that around to say, if I were to trust in something or put my faith in something that would give me the hope that I can maybe reach my goal, what would I be trusting in? What would I be practicing putting faith in? And then start collecting evidence as a practice to support the things you're trusting, to support the foundation for your faith. So for example, when I was in this gap of like being a pre-professional dancer and I was scared, like, what if I don't become a professional dancer after investing my life in this? That was terrifying to think about. And if I just continued to stew in that fear, I would just become so stressed out and so scared that it would really disrupt my focus on what I was doing and all the action I was putting in. I knew that having a trusting and faith-filled mindset was going to actually give me the most motivation, the most positivity, the most confidence that would then serve me in those auditions that would really matter. So the things I practiced putting my trust and faith in were ideas like, I trust that there is a company out there, even if it's not in a place that I would have guessed, maybe it comes at a time I wouldn't have guessed, no matter what form it shows up in, I trust that there's a company out there who's looking for a dancer like me. I trust that I have enough skill and talent and all those things to keep taking my next best step. I believe that things are working out for me, even if it doesn't always feel like it. You might think that some of these beliefs are ridiculous. That's fine. You're entitled to that opinion. But guess what? I had the audition season of my life when I was practicing putting my faith in those things. And what did I do to collect evidence? I would notice any feedback that I was getting that seemed like a choreographer or a teacher believed in me. I'd be like, proof, other people see it too. I would have an audition where even if I didn't get an offer, I noticed them looking at me and I was like, proof, people are interested. They might just be looking for a 5'2" brunette and I'm 5'8", so there's that. I would also focus on other people's stories I heard of getting a contract last minute or out of nowhere or just some unexpected success coming their way. I would also focus on other dancers that I felt like, to be honest, they weren't the most skilled in the world, but they ended up getting some sort of offer. And I would think about that. I'm like, you know what? If it's possible for them, why not me? So I would collect all this evidence and be like really vigilant about it to bolster this sense of faith and confidence. And it served me so well. So remember that belief is a practice. And in order to bolster a belief, you must collect evidence to support the belief. Collecting evidence is something that you can do proactively. Evidence doesn't always just happen to you, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, comment down below. The next thing is that a lot of dancers get caught up in the fear of failure, and that prevents them from believing in themselves. So here's the action step. Instead of just spiraling down into this fear of failure, actually identify a couple of things. First, what would you do to move forward even if quote-unquote failure happened? What would you do to move forward? When you actually identify that, you will show yourself in your brain, it might be scary. You might hate it. It might be so uncomfortable, but you would live. I swear, when you actually just identify how you would get up and move forward, even if your personal worst case scenario happened, it does take away from some of the power that fear has over you, because you realize you have the power to choose how you move forward from that. The game, your life, wouldn't be over, okay? The next thing is to identify what actions you can take to help avoid that failure from happening. Instead of just being like, what if I fail? What if I fail? What if I fail? Focus on what would I do in order to not fail? And even better, do this. Instead of focusing on, oh, I hope I don't fail, identify what is the outcome I want specifically and what are the actions I can take to help myself secure that outcome. It's so basic, you might listen to that and be like, yeah, and then not follow through on it. But I swear, the dancers who actually sit down and write out the answers to those questions are gonna have such a competitive advantage over the ones who don't, because you need that real grounding in like, here's what I'm gonna do. Here's where I'm going. Here's what actions are gonna help me get there. When you stay committed to your plan and your action, it's so much more secure and confidence building rather than, oh, I hope I don't fail. I hope I don't, hoping, okay, hope is valuable, but hoping, oh, I hope this doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen. Instead of, yeah, sure, I hope that doesn't happen, but here's what I'm gonna do to secure my ideal outcome. And also, even if it does happen, the fear, here's what I'll do to move forward. That is so much more concrete, and it focuses you on what is within your power to influence, okay? So definitely take the time to do that step. The next one is to work on your own opinion of your dancing, okay? And clarify what strengths or value you actually bring to the table. This is a thing that a lot of dancers struggle to do because we feel like, oh, if someone else has a strength, then that means it's not my strength, okay? You have to assess your strengths compared to your other qualities or skills, okay? What are the standout qualities for you and how do they provide value? I could go really deep into that. I won't, I'll leave that there. It's something I really dive into with clients when I'm helping them to really develop this very confident and healthy mindset that helps them to put themselves out out there, dance to their fullest potential consistently, get out of stress, insecurity, and fear and into that confidence and enjoying their dancing, I really help them to clarify what are your strengths and how does it provide value, and it gets them so locked in on like, yeah, I am unique and here's how, and here's why it matters. And that allows you to bring so much more confidence and self-belief into any situation that you're presenting yourself in. But definitely work on your own opinion of your dancing. Become clear on what your opinion actually is, because if you have some unpleasant opinions about your own dancing, like I'm not good enough or whatever it is, or this is ugly, I can't do that, I'm not good at this, then you can actually be like, all right, if that's what I currently think, are there any practical things I can change to improve my opinion? Whether it's through changing your technique or just changing the way you see yourself. That is something that you have the power to do. The problem is so many dancers put the power in someone else's hands to tell them what to think about themselves. That's so disempowered, and it's the reason why a lot of dancers are really insecure. So, my friend, you are allowed to develop your own opinion of your dancing. As long as it's positive and you actually believe it, that's what matters. The last tip I have for you is to be flexible with your mindset, my friends. So many dancers they have this growth mindset around their technique, like, if I put in the work, I can improve it. But in experiencing mental change, like releasing perfectionism or insecurities, so many dancers feel stuck, like, that's just how I am, that's just what my brain does. You have way more power over your brain than you think. Okay? And it starts by knowing that and then exercising that by first practicing the concept of mental flexibility. What does that mean? Being open to changing your perspective, starting to use curiosity to question the thoughts and the feelings and the beliefs that you have, starting to practice making different choices by not only questioning, but saying, you know what? I'm going to try out validating and reinforcing this perspective because I think it would work for me much better. So when I say be flexible in your mindset, how this relates to the idea of believing in yourself is just remember that your mind is the most flexible thing about you. And if you've been repeating these patterns of thought in your head, like I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, that is possible to change. All right? And that's something I help with as a high performance mindset coach for dancers. So if you are interested in getting real and effective support to quickly change those patterns so that you can actually let go of insecurities and limiting beliefs that are holding you back, whether it's self-doubt, maybe performance anxiety affects you a lot, insecurities, perfectionism, comparison, if any of those things you feel super stuck in them, but you don't want to be stuck anymore, that's what I specialize in the Confident Dancer Coaching Program. So you could click the link below to check that out, learn more about the program, and schedule a free consultation with me to see if the program would be a great fit for you. But I really want to reinforce this last point, whether you work on it with me or on your own. It's so important to, instead of just observing how you think and just being like, that's how I think, that's how I feel, oh well, if the way you think and feel and your perspectives are not working for you, you can change it. I encourage you to switch that question around instead of just being like, what do I think and feel? Must be facts, must be true. Switch it. Ask, what feeling would help me to dance my personal best and actually achieve my goals? What perspective, what mindset would really help me to accomplish my goals? Or at least just give me the best shot at accomplishing the goals. So few dancers ask that question and then reverse engineer the way they see things and their beliefs and perspectives around their goals. We do the opposite. We're like, man, this is just the way I think and I hope I get there one day. No. You can do the opposite with your mindset and be like, okay, what perspectives or beliefs, thoughts, feelings would actually serve me in performing my personal best and accomplishing my goals one day? Is it believing in what I have to offer, feeling confident, really just letting go and enjoying my dancing? Whatever you decide, you can get clear on what mental state would help me to accomplish my goals, and then reverse engineer your perspectives and start reinforcing new beliefs and letting go of old beliefs so that you can adopt that new way of thinking. I really think success starts in your head. It starts with your mind, okay? And so if you really start taking that last point seriously, you're gonna learn about what I just said. It's gonna feel true for you. But very few dancers actually practice that flexibility in their mind. So I want to just remind you, it's possible. You can start doing it today. Okay, dancers, I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode. Please let me know what you think in the comments, or if you're listening on podcasts, then direct message me on Instagram. I'd love to know what you think of the episode. I hope this really helped you, and again, if you're interested in individual mindset coaching support, check out the Confident Dancer Coaching Program. That's really designed to help high-level dancers adopt a truly confident mindset that helps you to perform your personal best consistently. That program is designed to help you let go of mental blocks like performance anxiety, self-doubt, comparison, perfectionism, like I mentioned before. So if those things have been holding you back and you've been having a hard time believing in yourself, getting this kind of support can really make all the difference. Seriously, just check out the testimonials on my website. So again, hope you enjoyed. It was great talking with you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.